Hello, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com, or if you're watching on our YouTube channel, Tar Heel Illustrated. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me, as he always does, THI publisher Andrew Jones. And Andrew, we're here for another episode of our UNC Basketball ISO Series. But before we dive into it, make sure you guys head on over to TarHeelIllustrated.com after this video is done. You can find a link in the description below and sign up to be a premium member for just $8.33 a month. You get access to our premium message boards, which a large majority of our recruiting stuff goes in, football and basketball related. And it's a great time to do it in the off season ahead of next season and before we dive into the regular season grind for football and then basketball. So if you haven't already, if you're a diehard Carolina fan, a ton of perks of signing up to be a premium subscriber on our channel. Also join a great community that we have over there as well. Some really fun people in there to interact with. So after this video is done, go ahead and sign up for just $8.33 a month. But AJ, let's dive into this one. We're here to talk about RJ Davis in this episode. A guy that was, to me, it was kind of early in the season. I thought Carolina, especially during the Maui Invitational in Asheville, I actually remember us doing a post-game video about it. And I thought really up there was a time when we were like, okay, this offense and this team seems to run a little bit better with RJ Davis at the point. And I thought that kind of translated and changed a little bit throughout the season as Caleb Love started to play a little bit better at certain times, become a little bit more comfortable as a point guard, and obviously still a lot to be desired in his game and a lot of improvements that he can make. But RJ Davis, I think, was a guy early on that made the team look a little bit better. Maybe that changed a little bit throughout the middle of the season. But towards the end of the season, man, I thought he was really fantastic, and I think that'll be kind of illuminated when I run through a little bit of his stats. 22.3 minutes per game, 8.4 points per game, 2.3 rebounds, 1.9 assists, 35% from the field goal, from the field goal range, 32.3% from the three-point line and beyond. And these are the two ones that kind of stand out to me. Averaged 10.3 points per game over his last 8 games, or Carolina's last 8 games of the season, which I think shows how much better he got towards the end of the season in terms of finding a little bit consistency and definitely was scoring the ball when you look at that. And he also led the team in free throw percentage with 82.1, and that's for anybody that's taken 50 or more attempts from the line last season. So really a guy that came on towards the end of it. I know that Virginia Tech game in particular, which we were talking a little bit off camera in the ACC tournament, I think really epitomized just how good he was towards the end of the season and the improvements that he made. But for me, RJ Davis is a guy that's got a ton of potential, is going to continue to improve. And I really like kind of the moxie, the dog that he has in him. He's a fun guy to watch, and he's a guy that might not be the tallest guy out there, but he's a guy that plays hard, plays physical, and really gets after it. And I think the future for him at Carolina is really, really bright.
I like gritty guards. I like guards that can take a pounding sometimes, get knocked on their butt, get back up, and you can drive into the lane again. I think that there's a little bit of Joel Berry there.
I would agree.
With RJ. We kind of saw that early, and we saw it later in the year. I'm not saying he's going to be an MOP of a Final Four like Joel or first-team All-ACC or anything like that, but I'm just talking about in terms of grittiness and toughness, a guy that relies on what people call in some walks of life elbow grease in order to get through it. Now, he is highly skilled. I think he will be more skilled. There are many elements of his game that need tremendous work, and he's in the process of doing that. But I do like the fact that there were times where he was able to rise up and play well against good teams. He had, 14 down in Tallahassee against an excellent defensive team with length. The Virginia Tech game that you mentioned, that was a really good defensive team. And it was RJ Davis leading them, especially in the second half. He finished with 19. I think he had 15 in the second half.
Right.
He had that 6-point swing at about the midpoint of the half where he hit a three, went down the other end, made a steal, scored, fouled, hit the free throw, 6-point RJ Davis swing in like 28 seconds that I think changed the game. And he played with a lot of moxie that night. He was feeling it. And even the Wisconsin game, and I reference this because I actually watched it recently, I was looking at the freshmen and just kind of seeing some things. People said, oh, they weren't really ready to play that night, all that kind of stuff. I just looked at individual freshmen when I was watching. And one of the things I liked about RJ in that game was he got some really tough defensive rebounds, pulled them, and turned up the court and ran. I think rip and run is really important, especially if you're going to play 3 guards. And they might play 3 guards a bit this year with Kerwin as a 3, and they might play 2 point guards at the same time with Caleb and RJ on the floor. So you got to be able to rip and run. And And RJ showed he could do. They showed some toughness in that game. He showed toughness at other points during the course of the season. And that's what I like about him. And it goes with the skill stuff. It's interesting. I do remember that conversation about how it looked like he was running the team better than Caleb. I think it was a greater transition for Caleb to run the team than it was for RJ. And I do like RJ on the ball, but his assist numbers were really low. Mm-hmm. If you're a guy who's on the ball a lot, and he was at the point a lot because he subbed in behind Caleb at the point for a good part of the season after starting alongside him the first 3 or 4 weeks. But you play 23 minutes a game, you need to have average more than 1.9 assists. You need to find your teammates more. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that could drive and get in the lane. He needs to kick out more. He needs to dunk down more than he did. And he often got tangled up. So I would think awareness, distribution, knowing where their teammates are, all that kind of stuff, the ability to complete difficult passes. And I do think kickouts to the wing when you're driving in the lane is a much more difficult pass than it appears when you're in the stands or watching on TV. Those are things that he must get better at. I could see him on the ball a lot next year and Caleb playing the de facto too. They're going to be interchangeable. Hubert's already said in some interviews he's done in some podcasts that, he wants to have 2 point guards on the floor. Well, they're not classic point guards, but they're combo guards with a lot of point guard skills and point guard experience. So they'll be able to play off each other. So maybe Caleb's on the ball one series, the next possession, RJ's on the ball, and he's got to be able to dump down to bigs. He's got to be able to find people to be respected being on the ball the way you want your point guard respected. So those are some areas that he definitely needs to get better. But I like his game. Yeah, I like the fact that he's a guy that doesn't take any BS from anybody. And I think that will become more infectious as he gets older. It will be part of his leadership as he becomes an older player, just like it was with Joel. Joel and Luke didn't say a lot, but Luke had a standard. And the other guys knew you kind of had to rise to that standard. And he had a way about doing things. Joel was the same way. Joel wasn't a huge rah-rah guy, but he led with his grit. He led with the standard. I could see Art, and again, I'm not saying RJ is going to be Luke or Joel, but I think that he has that in him, the kind of guy that makes the dudes better because of his toughness, because of his focus, because of his grit and determination. And he's pretty skilled. He'll be more skilled moving forward.
Agreed. And I think for me too, I know you and David did a lot of podcasts, obviously, before we even got at Carolina. And one of the things that I knew how good of a scorer Caleb Love was, but a lot of people considered, when you go watch RJ Davis's highlights in high school, and I don't think you'll disagree, a lot of people considered him as the most dominant or most elite scorer in that class based on what he did in high school, based on Carolina's class coming in last season. And so for me, 8.4 points per game, but that stat of 10.3 points per game over the last 8 games, I think there's so much more potential and so much more things that he can do putting the ball in the basket. And I think as he gets more comfortable, improves, gets a little bit stronger, because like I said, he's not the biggest guy out there. He's definitely one of the shorter players on the team. And I think there's still a ton he can do in the weight room to improve that. But I think just his ability to score and some of the points per game numbers he could put up over the next couple of seasons, I think there's so much more room for improvement in that. And he only shot 35% from field goal range and 32.3 from 3-point land. So I just think for me personally, there's so much more steps he can take and so much more improvements he can make in terms of putting the ball in the basket too.
One area he actually showed a lot of improvement in last year, although late he started getting congested again, but early in the season he'd drive and he'd try to score over big people. He'd get knocked to the ground, the ball wouldn't get to the rim, and there was a lot of that. And that started to taper off before it did with Caleb. Like he adjusted some of the driving mistakes before Caleb did. And I think what we'll see more of from him moving forward, we're going to see a floater.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna see a pull-up jumper from inside the free throw line. We're going to see a lot of stuff like that. He's going to score a lot of baskets doing that stuff. And when defenses respond, if he has the ability to dump it down, like if he pump fakes and the defender comes out and he gets by a defender a little bit, he gets in the lane and he's in that area for the 14-footer, he can pull up and shoot. If he has the ability to dump down or just flick something out to the wing, he's going to be really good. Mm-hmm. And that's part of what I know that he's working on and what I believe that we will eventually see from him. He could hit that shot. I think he could score from a lot of spots. And again, as we talked about with Caleb and we talked about with Kerwin, the way they're going to play, I think guys that can put the ball on the floor and create their own shots are going to have a lot of success in this offense because it's not going to be as congested. You're going to be more reliant on your move, your ability to get a defender and create something. There won't be 600 big guys in the paint where there's no way to get any closer than like 12 feet to the basket.
Without getting destroyed,
I think RJ will take advantage of that. But I do think those parts of his game are there. We saw snippets of it. And you're right. I think it was Notre Dame. He had 14 in Greensboro, and then he had 19 against Virginia Tech. And he looked really good. I think he was first team all ACC tournament.
He might have been too,
well. He played well against Duke. And so I'm excited. Look, I love seeing guys develop. I love seeing guys progress. I mean, I get excited here. One of the reasons why I love the college game more than the pro game as far as covering it is because I love to cover kids getting better. I love the process. And his process could be a 4-year one. And I think he's going to be someone that scores a lot of points before he's done, is a part of a lot of wins. And I think Carolina fans are going to refer to him as RJ. People say RJ, you'll know exactly who they're talking about, perhaps even by the end of this next year. I think he's a really important, nice part to whatever it is this team becomes this next year. Whatever they are, he's going to play a big part in it.
Definitely. I think RJ is one of the guys I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how he improves over the next year the most, because I've just always been a fan of his game going back to high school and the way he plays, and was, obviously enjoyed watching him last year and kind of seeing him go through some of those learning curves like a lot of the other freshmen did on this team as well. But I can't agree with you more. I think the future is extremely bright for him. And when you think about the system that Hubert's more, from our understanding so far, we haven't even talked to Hubert yet. When you kind of consider what we think he's going to play in terms of having some stretch guys and man, they can step out and hit shots, is going to open the lane up a little bit more. I think that's going to bode well for guys like him and Caleb, like you mentioned as well in particular. So yeah, future is bright for a guy like RJ, and it's going to be interesting to see what kind of improvements and developments he makes in his game going into next season. But AJ, it's a good place to wrap this one up, man. RJ Davis is the focal point of this UNC Basketball ISO Series episode. As always, you guys know the drill. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and head over onto our website as well and sign up for our premium message boards for just $8.33 a month. Can't emphasize enough. This is a great time to do with all the recruiting stuff that's going on behind the scenes. And it's been a busy time for you guys as well. So definitely head on over there and sign up for just $8.33 a month. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.